Good day and welcome to today's painting demonstration. And in today's video, I'm going to be painting an exciting Bush-Veld scene with a dusty road for penetrating depth. I've already worked out in a previous video the compositional armature, and I'm using a different reference for the tree in the painting. I'm using artistic license here to create the scene I have envisioned. Let's begin. So my palette I'm going to use for this painting is titanium white, raw sienna, brilliant rose, buff titanium, cadmium orange, blue grey, cadmium yellow, lemon yellow, violet grey, Van Dyke brown, cobalt violet, primary cyan, cobalt blue, cadmium red, Prussian blue, and terverte green. After sketching in my basic idea on a double primed canvas, 105 centimeters by 65 centimeters, mounted to an MDF board, I start my basic blocking using violet grey, a little Van Dyke brown, cobalt violet, cobalt blue, and Prussian blue for the dark parts of my clouds. And for the lighter part, a little bit of blue grey, a touch of cadmium yellow, a touch of cadmium orange, a little bit of brilliant rose in the mix, and titanium white. My color strategy would be to mix all the colors out intuitively on my working palette and then match them up to my reference. Also, there would be a lot of intermixing, like I would have a dark mix of the shadow of the clouds and a light mix of the highlights. Then I would mix the dark mix and the light mix together to get an intermediate. And in this way, I would get a very nuanced approach to my blocking in. I would occasionally bring in some other colors, like a little bit of brilliant rose into my dark shadow on the clouds over there. Mix the paint, and working with these bits of color, I can figure out the light and dark dynamic of my painting. I really love the depth dynamic that the compressed underparts of those clouds create in this picture. They lend themselves well to the atmospheric depth and the overall perspective of the scene. My methodology and approach to my landscape paintings is to start from the top of the canvas, starting with the sky to lock in the atmospheric mood, and then working my way down to the most distant parts of the landscape, and gradually working my way to the middle ground, to the foreground. As we come closer in our landscape, our colors become darker and warmer in the shadows and lighter and warmer in the lights. Generally, I work from cool to warm, soft and hazy to strong and contrasting in the foreground. As we start at the most furthest distance, we use combinations of grays and working gradually to blue grays, coming closer to purple grays, closer to cold purple greens, and even closer warmer reddish greens. And so as we keep our method in mind, we can build color and mood with depth in our landscape. As our first blocking layer is completed, we now have the foundation for more complex modeling. We can strengthen the tonal dynamics, giving us a more modeled feel, which in turn gives us an illusion of detail. Yes, you heard me right. Detail is an illusion, an effect, an afterthought laying upon and carried by good underlying structure and design. Without structure and design, the detailing would really look out of place. I'm now strengthening the lights on the clouds and putting in warmer colors. In the cloud shadows on the top left, bringing it forward and pushing the cloud mass in the distance further back. Once I feel that the landscape is going in the direction I intended, I can now add in that tree as a pivotal focal point in the composition of this painting. At this stage, all subsequent layers are dry, and I can put in the darks of the tree and make it stand out. I can now see that my tree I intend using really fits the picture. One of the main reasons for choosing this reference for my painting was definitely the light, and how that afternoon light on the dusty old sand road creates an interesting pattern in contrast to the shadow. I'm always looking out for interesting designs and patterns in nature and bringing it to light in my paintings. I'm fascinated by light and how just a few brushstrokes can bring out the entire subject. With some brilliant rose, cadmium orange and cadmium lemon for the highlight on the dusty road, and brilliant rose, cobalt violet, touch of a dyke brown, and cadmium orange for the shadow of that road. I'm working on the hardest stage of the painting. This will definitely show if all my initial planning was thoughtful enough. The detail phase is a stage where we're doing all our little tweaks to make sure that everything in the painting is just right. And probably the most important thing is the balance of detail. I really want the depth aspect to work, and for that I have painted the background shapes with less detail and more detail the closer to the foreground. And I must admit, it became tricky to make that road look convincing. I had to make sure that the detail translates into receding depth. Another challenge was breaking up that dark shape on the right with enough color and texture, creating the nuance values in the foliage and making sure that those grasses registers the correct texture. At certain points, the wet paint was making the surface of the canvas glare in the light, so that made the judging of color and values a bit tricky. As the painting came closer to its conclusion, I needed to make sure to separate the main tree from the foliage mass behind it, Using some warm greens mixed with some orange and raw sienna, I can separate the contrast between the tree and the mass behind it. It's all about the edges and the edges of shapes. I then proceeded with the final details and sky holes poking through the main tree, and just tweaking the highlights on those grasses to support that focal point in the painting. I just want to say thank you for watching this demo video till the end. Until we meet again on this channel, have a great day further.